Hey everybody, it's Mac from Picnic Point Kayak Fishing, coming to you with a new review video of a camera that I found. And I know cameras aren't exactly fishing equipment, but as YouTube content creators, we all use cameras and cameras are all interesting to us. So I thought I'd do a quick review of this camera that I've found on Amazon. It's called an Ordro EP-8, and as you can see, it's a pretty small, unobtrusive camera. Its positioning is a little weird compared to GoPro, because GoPros, you know, you wear them on your chest or you wear them on your head or you hold them in your hand on a stick. But I wanted to have something that was similar field of view to a GoPro, but not as heavy and didn't stick up as high, so that when I'm walking and talking or doing my narration, people might just think that I'm talking on the phone or on a Bluetooth or whatever. So I decided to give this one a try. It has this band that goes around your head that sort of squeezes like a pair of glasses, and it's not heavy. It hasn't run out of batteries yet. Let me see if I can get a closer shot of it. There it is. And I was kind of excited about how it works. It's got a gimbal in it, like a 2-axis stabilization gimbal in it. I don't know if you can see how it works. Maybe I'll try to get a video of the gimbal actually doing what it does. I recorded a little drive down to my church for a meeting that I had, and I wanted to do it in the late afternoon and early evening so that I could get video during full daylight and video after dark. And as it worked out, the meeting ran long, so it was fully dark, as you'll see. I wanted to test the video as it compares to my GoPro Hero 5, and I wanted to check to see how the audio records as compared to my Hero 5. And as you can see, it'll be pretty comparable. As I said, as a fishing kayak content creator, I like to have my first-person camera, and I wanted to make sure to have something that's unobtrusive and that I can use. I just feel like it's going to be pretty darn cool to have a small little camera like this. There's some battery concerns I have, which I talk about in the beginning of the drive, so I'll leave it for that. So I hope that this video review is helpful so that you can see what this camera is all about. So without any more yapping from me, let's get to the video. Because I need to have about, I would say, 4 hours of recording time, of solid recording time. I've got the resolution of this camera turned down to 1080, 60 frames per second, so that might allow it to run for longer. That resolution on a 64 gigabyte memory card is about 3 hours of recording time, maybe 3.5 hours of recording time. So we'll see. I'm gonna probably try the next time I go fishing to use this camera. We'll just let it run solid, and then after it dies, I'll switch over to the GoPro, and then we'll have a direct comparison of the video quality from a GoPro Hero 5, which is what I had been using as my current first-person view camera. It's quite heavy and quite ungainly and quite unattractive, so I bought this thing sort of on a whim, and I like the way it feels. I like the way it fits. It squeezes my head a little bit, but that's okay. It's got to hang on somehow. It's not heavy, which is nice, because my GoPro with the extended battery on it is quite heavy. Obviously, an extended battery would be heavy. This thing, I may just be able to drop a battery in my shirt pocket and run a wire to it and use it that way for extra battery life. I don't know, but it's a lovely afternoon, so we should be able to see some nice views, nice crisp daylight view. And then later on the evening, when the light is lower, I'll run this camera again going home, and it will be darker, so we can check out the low light. And if you're wondering which church I go to, it's called Community Christian Fellowship in Edmonds, Washington. www.ccfedmonds.org. I expect with regard to using this camera on the Kayak that it is likely to be not waterproof. I believe that it said it's something like IPX65, which is probably splash proof. But if I were to fall off the Kayak, or it were to fall off my head and into the water, it would probably be ruined. So there's that to consider. But again, I'm really not liking the weight of the GoPro on my head, which you've seen in other videos. I have a refuel extended battery. It gives me like 9 hours of battery life, but it's quite heavy. I like that refuel thing, it's cool. But anyway, if I commit to using this as my first person camera, I'm going to have to take extra care to try not to fall in the drink, and hopefully this thing is waterproof enough that it will survive a dunk. But one can only guess at what the actual outcome will be with it getting wet. So of course I'll always keep the GoPro with me to switch out to, but I hope I don't have to, because I'm already enjoying the lightness of this camera. I think I already said that. It sits on my ear a little bit funny, like not right directly over my ear, kind of offset. So I imagine if I were to wear this for several hours, it might get uncomfortable on my earlobe. But it can be adjusted, I expect. Let me touch the microphone, or touch the camera, and make a quick adjustment. We can see how noisy it is when I make the adjustment, and then the microphone picking up the sound of my fingers against the plastic housing of the camera. So here it goes. And with a 130-degree field of view of this camera, it matches the GoPro standard wide-angle setting. I had been using the not quite as wide crop in the GoPro, but wow, that was startling. Anyway, I had been using the GoPro not quite as wide crop with the interest of not having such a distorted image. So I may have to reduce I may have to crop in on the frame of this camera in post to make it a little less crazy looking, a little less super wide angle, distorted. Anyway, that was an exciting little cop activity. It was definitely not getting pulled over. He must have got a call, because he threw the lights on and the sirens on, which gave me a little heart attack. We support our police officers here in Edmonds, so it's alright that he gave me a little mini heart attack. So this camera has a little 2-axis sort of semi-gimbal built into it. It's like I wouldn't call it a full gimbal, because the camera lens movement, I was playing with it and watching it earlier, there is a little bit of a lens movement when the camera shifts to soften the sharpness of moving your head. But it's definitely not a true gimbal. It's more like a shock absorber sort of motion, and I don't hear, when I turn my head, I don't hear any kind of motor sound inside the camera. So I presume it's not picking up any kind of motor sound on the microphone. My full gimbal camera, my Kayak gimbal camera, does make a noise, and you can hear it in the microphone when it's correcting itself. It makes a little it's like a high-pitched humming noise. So I'm hoping this camera does not do that, because that would be really nice to have a solid little, motion damping camera with no motor noises. I was looking through the settings in the OD Cam app that goes with this camera, and it does have loop recording, so you can use it as a quote-unquote dash cam to record. And I imagine that when you want to save a bit of your recording, and I didn't read the manual thoroughly, but I imagine if you wanted to save a bit of the recording, you would probably just hit the record button and it would click and save the 20 seconds or whatever prior to your button click. But I'll have to read about it and then correct myself, I'm sure. Alright, so we're about to arrive at my church, so I will sign off temporarily and I will see you in a few moments. So as you can see from the first part of this video, the gimbal still is a little herky-jerky. It's not as smooth as it could be if it were a full gimbal like the camera that I'm talking to you on right now. But for what it is, obviously you can't have a full gimbal. And it doesn't have the digital stabilization that GoPros have, which I'm not entirely sure I like anyway. As it is, so far, I'm liking the daylight use of the camera. The wide angle is good. I feel like maybe because it's on the side of my head, the shot is a little off-center, but maybe it's just me, I don't know. Also, the audio seems to come in pretty well, so I really like that. I don't think I'm going to have to use a supplemental recorder, like trying to record audio with the GoPro while doing video with this, because I really wouldn't want to overcomplicate it that much. I did notice, however, when I would drive over a bump, the jarring of the tires in the car would create a little peaking effect in the audio. I'm not sure if that was just the way I have it mounted on my head, or if it's sensitive to a certain low-end frequency, but you may notice it. We'll get on to the drive home here in a sec, and there's a lot less talking in that, so that one will go faster. Okay, meeting over. We're heading home. It is after dark, which is a convenient thing to have, so we can see about the contrast night vision situation. Probably only be able to see headlights and reflections of my headlights, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And there goes the fellow deacon and some puppies. Right now we're coming into an area with less street lighting, so this will be a real test of greater darkness. Well, I guess there's more street lighting than I remember there being, so never mind. So as I run this video, I'm going to publish it with no ambient noise reduction, so the sound of the microphone, the sound generated by the microphone, will be in the recording, so you'll be able to know truly how good the audio quality is. I find that on my GoPro there is a bit of a hiss in the sound, and I always run my GoPro through iMovie at 100% volume, and I always have to do the ambient background noise reduction, and I find that it's most of the time just like a hissing sound. My Kayak camera doesn't record audio very well. It records it well enough that you can hear it, but the tonal range is pretty low, and it also has a low gain setting in the recording, so the microphone volume isn't very loud. The Tacticams that I use are too far away from me to be effective microphones for audio, so I pretty much just use those for the video and grab the audio from the GoPro. I'm hoping that this camera has enough gain in the microphone and enough audio quality that it will be sufficient to replace the GoPro's audio track, and I won't still have to use the GoPro for the audio, because if that becomes the case, then I may just return this thing and stick with the GoPro. But this camera was quite a bit cheaper than a GoPro. The GoPro Hero 10 Blacks are $399, I believe. This camera was $279 with all the stuff that makes it work. So it came with the headband, the camera, all the connecting cables, a little carrying bag, and a USB card reader thing to plug into your computer to transfer the video files from the SD card to your hard drive. So we got through the night portion of our drive. I find that the night quality of video, the area of shadows, seems to have enough detail in it, but the exposure compared to the outside is pretty dark. And you know, that could be because of the headlights, and the camera was exposing for the brightness of the headlights. I did notice, however, that there are some instances in the film where the exposure seems to get brighter and darker, and I'm not sure if that's a function of the auto exposure or if it's a glitch in the way the thing meters. And if you look closely, you can see it when it flashes to a slightly brighter exposure in the shadow areas. It could be us passing under a light or headlights flashing against the car or something to that effect, but I did notice it, and it seems kind of odd. Overall, I think that it's pretty on par with the GoPro as far as night exposure goes. It definitely doesn't have as much appearance of grain in the shadow areas, and that's because of the 60 frames a second frame rate. Overall, I think it's fine for night use. I would probably make sure I was standing under a street light or somewhere where there was a small light source that the camera could have a meter reading from. I did have the opportunity to test the battery life, like the full life of the battery. The other day I went fishing from the Mukilteo Pier, and I had it on my head, and I just turned it on and let it run, and I got a solid 2 hours out of it before it started talking to me and telling me that the battery was low. So it could, and I'm hoping that the microphone didn't pick it up, but because it was playing it in my ear on the little speaker that's in the camera, I imagine it probably was picked up by the microphone. But I'd say safely an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes before it starts talking to you is your run time. So I'm definitely going to have to figure out a way to augment the battery. But again, for the price I paid, which was 279 bucks, I think I'm going to give it a go. I think that's going to be worth the effort. Plus, with the HDMI out, I can actually use it for some live streaming things that we do with our church, and just experimental fun time stuff maybe. But yeah, if you're thinking about a small, not a GoPro, first-person view camera, this one's definitely something to consider because it is comfortable to wear, has good video quality. I liked what I saw as far as video quality when I reviewed back both the daylight and the nighttime video. The microphone, there's some wildlife happening behind me. The microphone seems to pick up pretty well. It's a good little camera. I'm not gonna completely give up my GoPro yet, but I think this could be a good thing if I drop a battery in my pocket and run a little power cable to it, which may or may not be comfortable. Again, we'll find out about that, and I'll be sure to let you know. It'll be good use. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you for your support. Please like and subscribe. Ask me any questions you have in the comments. Thanks for watching. Keep fishing and stay safe.